This is the Spawn on Me podcast. We are live. We are in full effect. This is episode 206, and I'm your host, Kahlief Adams. We are hanging out this week and every week up on Twitch, doing our thing in podcast land, doing it big on the front page of Twitch this evening for Black History Month. Thank you for everyone who's come through and for everyone who's given us love and given everyone today some love in the Celebrating Black History Month Twitch world. A lot of people that you should be checking out in the next couple of days and weeks for the rest of this month. But before we do that, we are going to hang out with all of our crew. First up is the man who makes science look good, who makes studying look good, who makes mini froze look good, who makes contacts look good. It is Sharif Jackson of SharifJackson.com. How are you, sir?
What's up? I'm doing great. It's a great day. First day of Black History Month. Super hype. Glad to be with you guys as always, but especially glad to, be celebrating the beginning of, this great month where we get to, focus on what makes us awesome and how we add to, American history. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm super hyped. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we have a lot of cool stuff in store. We get to big up ourselves a little bit. We get to show our beautiful black skin to everybody in the world and let them just deal with it. And it's great. And speaking of beautiful, we're going to talk to the Duchess of Diversity. We have Tanya DePaz. How are you doing, Tanya?
I'm good. I'm going to give you a look later about the segue, though.
What? That was a dope segue.
It was a great segue. It's me. It's all me. I know my limits.
Good Lord. You're gonna make my eyes go like this in the sky like this. Oh, good Lord. That's gonna be the blackest thing. I'm gonna say, oh, good Lord. I love you, Tanya. I love you.
I know. It's me. It's me being weird. Y'all don't pay me no attention.
It's all good in the hood. How are you doing? How are you celebrating your Black History Month so far? It is only 12 to 14 hours into your Black History Month. But how are you doing so far?
Ooh, Twitter. Let me holler at y'all about Twitter though. Between the black girl gamers are unicorns and today, I don't think I've seen an actual reply to me on Twitter that was meant for me. But you know what? I played some Mafia 3. I got my Black Girl Magic tee on. I even put a little makeup for the people. We're good. We're going to be good because it's going to be black as black can fucking be.
Word. Absolutely.
Right.
I'm excited about that. Reef, how has your Black History Month been so far for the first 14 hours of it?
First 14 hours been dope. One thing that I do the beginning of every Black History Month is I make sure that I remind myself of all of the people of color that contributed to math and science, not only currently like the Neil deGrasse Tyson and such, but back in in the ancient Babylonian days and such, because when I'm teaching my students about things like algebra and fractions and stuff, I always like to remind them about who are some of the early people that did this. So, so I actually got like a new book at Borders that covers that. No, at a Barnes & Noble, I always forget which one is the one that's still open because they were both like the same thing to me. And yeah, it's like something that I do, every Black History Month because I like to remind myself that oftentimes we're only taught, sort of the European people that contributed to math and science, and they did very importantly, but I always try to give my students the whole picture. So that's what I spent a lot of the day between my tutoring sessions doing, is just researching.
That's dope. I like that. It feels like getting back to the essence. I'm not going to bust out some weird hotepness, but I'm talking about the gods and the earths, ELRFs. I'm not gonna do.
Are you a hotep tutor?
Well, let me see. How many Ankh necklaces can one man have? It's like,
I quit. I'm done. I'm done.
Can I have like
No.
It would be like multiple Ankhs. It would be like in the multi-Ankh universe.
Oh my God, the multi-Ankh verse, the Ankh verse.
The multi-Ankh verse would be so.
Oh my
dope.
God.
It would just be all of us with like big ass capes and Ankhs just rolling around, just smacking people with shea butter. Just be like, here you go.
No.
I wouldn't mind that.
Oh, the easy peasy new chat said New Ankh City. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, New Ankh City, I love it.
New Ankh City.
Oh my God.
I will
I'm
say
changing
that
the title.
New Ankh City.
I will say that, like, I think that Hotep tutoring is like probably a lot easier than my math and physics tutoring now, because you could just make up anything. You know, like I don't really have to study for it. You could just make up anything, and that is good.
Oh my God, so. that's kind of the best actually. I want there to be maybe one day when they have like backwards day, we'll have an episode that is the new Ankh City version of Spawn on Me, where we just talk about games in Hotepian ways. And that it would come on, Tanya. It would be so dope. Ride with me for a hot second.
No, you do that on a week I'm traveling.
What? Can we? Why not? It would be so dope. It would be these black fists behind me, and then it would be a whole bunch of Ankhs, and then I have a whole bunch of incense. We'll just have like a whole bunch of black love incense, and it would be so dope. We need smell-o-vision for that to go.
Well, I think we would have to do it while like Tanya's traveling, because Hotep's not necessarily supportive of women doing anything but
That's kind of true. That's
having kids.
That's actually very, very true. Yeah, we have to do negative Hotep business and stuff. One of the things we have to give some love to the folks over at Twitch for again having this event and including us, especially kicking it off with us today, being on front page and getting to share our thoughts about Black History Month. And I want to give Tanya and all the folks a big amount of love for the wonderful video that got shared out by Twitch today, actually, where folks kind of gave some of their some of the streamers who are going to be a part of this event gave some of their thoughts about Black History Month and what it means to them. We hadn't had a chance to kind of talk about that since Reef and I weren't necessarily in that video. But I kind of want to go around the circle again and see, what are some of the thoughts that you're having about the event, the month, what it means to you, and kind of how you want to celebrate it going forward with the next of these 29 days that 29. I can't remember. How many days did they give us this month?
28.
28, sir.
I can't count. I can't count.
It's not a leap year, okay?
You know what? I really thought it was leap year the other day because I don't. Anyway, I'm bad with time. Anywho. Reef, I want to go
math, man.
Shut up, man. 3 Ankhs plus 2 Ankhs equals 6 Ankhs.
Every year is a leap year, my brother.
Whatever, man. I move in time. I move like sand, brother. You don't understand me. I move like the granules of sand. Anyway, Reef, tell me a little bit. Wow. What are you thinking about this event? What are you thinking about Twitch doing this? And what do you think about, how are you going to celebrate for the rest of the month?
I mean, I think it's great. I think, as I said on like a Twitter, it's a small but important step. Uh-huh. Because we know that gaming is diverse. The numbers show that it's diverse. We know that streamers are diverse. But oftentimes sort of the outward public face of it is not necessarily diverse. And that's true in marketing. That's true on streaming sites. I mean, it's not only streaming that has that problem. It's just another symptom of a larger thing. Sure. So I think that, that it's good that, Twitch, that they're recognizing that and they're putting it on for this month. As I said, it's a small step because I do think that it's really the consistency and the sort of always making sure that if you're dealing in like video games, you should always be making sure that the people that you are putting forth are representative of the the gaming population, and like right now it's not. So I'm happy about the event, and I've actually found out about more people that I did not know that are people of a color that are streaming. I think a lot of people assume that there's so few people that everyone knows everyone, but there's more people every day, so I love this for like not only kind of celebrating the people that I already knew that like rock out,
Right.
But to find even like new people that are also just as dope. So
Word. Tanya, what are you thinking about? I know you had a impromptu stream earlier today, which was fantastic, by the way. If you could share a little bit about what your thoughts are going on into this new Twitch world that we find ourselves in.
It's great. I'm glad that they didn't script the video.
Mm,
And I say that being in the video. Um, it's good, but I'm hoping that it Twitch Unity carries on and does a lot more, and that this support isn't just in February. Like every other thing we see about Black History, where it's like, cool, you got 28 days or 29 days in a leap year to celebrate Blackness. Um, and cool story, go forth and live your best life, because we should be getting highlighted like everyone else's.
yeah.
Front page shouldn't just be a special event.
Hmm.
So I'm hopeful. I'm glad the video went well, but the replies to the tweet with the video kind of prove why we need to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where, we've talked about. It's interesting because like our dream when we started this show was to spotlight all the people of color and Black folks who are in this industry, trying to showcase what they do and why they're here, and kind of their purpose in the space, and that seeing each other is a wonderful thing, and being able to know that you can do something like that. It feels like it's nice to feel a little bit validated once an event like this happens, because we've all been working towards this in some form or fashion, right? It's like you with
Mm-hmm.
ID Diverse Games, Reef with everything that he does on the STEM side, and now especially with his tutoring and with his Gaming Looks Good series. And it's kind of dope to feel like, a little bit of vindication to see like Twitch backing this and being a thing that's showcasing so many dope Black streamers. I love it. I'm really excited that this is going to be a thing. I hope, and I have some ideas and thoughts and plans that I would love to pitch to Twitch about what we could do again for this next year. And I feel like, this can only get bigger and better to be able to see exactly how this is going to move. I guess really quickly, I want to give a little bit of a shout out, because I feel like when you talk about Black History Month, the beauty of being able to share information and what we do here on the show all the time is, we do a little bit of fun, we do a little bit of gaming stuff, but we also like to educate folks who are in the space as well. And I feel like you can't talk about video games without giving a little bit of love to some of the folks who started all this for all of us. One person that I always harken back to, and we always talk about on this show, is Gerald Lawson, who was a person who started off kind of making this space something that we could be in. There's a little blurb about him right there, talking about how he was one of the first people to help make a cartridge back in the days. I think he was working on the Atari system, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a New York native, so that makes it even better because he's New York native. I'm just going to say that out there and just throw that out there in the world. But it was wonderful to be able to see that our history is entwined with this medium. It's something that we always are told that we're not a part of. What are some of those kinds of conversations that you've heard over the years, and how do you feel we've been able to, not just our show, but just the folks that we know in the space, if you want to shout any of them out, have been bucking those notions that Black people aren't here in these spaces. Tanya, I'm going to throw it to you real quick. What do you think about that?
Ooh, how much time do we have?
As much as you need. It's our month. You have a month.
Well, we don't have a month tonight. But Shanae Bryant over at Take-Two Interactive, not Take-Two, where's she at? I want to say she's at...
She just moved.
Right. I wanted to say she was Take This, but that's not right either. But Shanae Bryant, Sierra McDonald, our friend Simply Andrea, because she's one of the people that got me into streaming, keeps me streaming. Wow. It's like, of course, now I got to think about all these people. Jerry Lawson's daughter, Karen, that we met last year at GDC. And who else? those are a few people.
Yeah.
Because of course, now that I got to think about somebody, everyone I know has gone out of my head.
Yeah, that's how it works.
It's always like that. Totally always like that. Word. Reef, what about you? I know that you didn't initially jump into the gaming side of it, just kind of on the press side. We always did we did podcasts. People don't know we did podcasting a little bit. God, what, 8 years ago?
Yeah, about that long ago. Yeah,
about 8 years ago, we had a show called Character Select. Shout out to Barbados Slim out in the world for helping
Baby
us.
Shirt Gangsters.
Baby Shirt Gangsters. The VSGs was real back in the day. What are some of the people who kind of inspired you in this space, and some of the folks that you felt are the ones that are definitely kind of bucking that trend that we haven't been here and that we actually are?
Oh man, so many. I definitely want to give a special shout, as Tanya did, to Simply Andrea. Her stream was one of the mainstays that I went to because she always managed to keep it super positive, and just like she's just a good example of like showing, like your love for the space, even though like the space might not, have all that love for you at times. And when I first met her and I talked to her, she was just so dope and like down to earth, and and she obviously had her issues, just like we all do, and but like she was like, I want my stream to be positive, and like I just love that. Not everybody can do that. I know I can't do that. But like I just really appreciate people, that I can. Also, I'm just a huge fan of a lot of people in the group, the Cookout, actually, the Cookout POC.
Love their stuff.
And she's in the chat now. I've been hopping in on a lot of Pikachu streams of Dead for Daylight, and I think she's been in Monster Hunter for like a little bit as well. And she's very, very dope. Also, gotta.
That's what happens when the internet does what it wants to do. We'll see if he pops back in a second. Hopefully.
Wow. Hopefully I've not lost Sharif.
Yeah, I hope we didn't lose Sharif. See, this is what happens.
See,
this is what happens when the man tries to cut you down.
Don't you start that Hotep mess. I'm trying not to cuss as much.
That's hilarious. I know you are.
I'm trying.
I know. Reef will try to pop back in.
Well, while we wait for Sharif to come back,
I'll jump in.
I was also because you haven't really talked about anybody else.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Real fast. You see, now we have both of them pondering stuff. I kind of like it. It's like Reef pondering stuff, and then pondering stuff. So we'll get that to pop back in a second. Hopefully it'll throw itself back in. Let's do this real fast.
The Ankh virus. I can't.
The Ankh virus. This is like Tanya in like two portals, which I appreciate.
This is weird. This is really
you're
weird.
Everywhere. You're there and everywhere, just taking over.
I'm just encroaching.
You know what? I'm going to leave it like that for a hot second. I'm going to leave it just like
That's
that.
weird.
What? Why not? Why can't we just leave it? I think it's fine.
Super Saiyan, Tanya.
Yeah, right. I'll move stuff over in a second. But what I want to do is say, some of the folks who we have in the space that I feel like don't get a lot of love are folks like, while I try to get Reef back in here, hold on a second.
While you do that, oh, sorry, I thought you were like going to have this long pause that I could like sneak in on.
If you want to, yeah, sneak in while I try to get Reef back in real quick.
So while we try to get Sharif back, I want to also talk about Charles Webb.
Yes.
And I mean, we're going to talk about Mafia 3 because it's me. I can't shut up about this game. But Charles, really gave Lincoln a lot of life.
Yeah.
And, without his touch on those characters, I don't think the game would have been what it is.
Right.
So, gotta give much love to Charles. And also, our friend and fam, Tariq Musa. Because a lot of his critique, to me is kind of a gold standard of where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And also just the thoughtfulness he puts into his work. Because I wouldn't have played The Witcher if not for him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Charles was fantastic. Now we have multiple Tanyas again. It looks like Reef lost Reef lost his Wi-Fi. It's like his router died.
Oh no!
So we'll move it a little bit, but not much. I'm gonna leave it like this just because when he pops in, it'll actually do what it's supposed to do. But Charles was fantastic with that. He was always a great interview to have. Plus, gosh, the conversation that we had during that show that we did, which I implore everyone to listen to, was like a 2-day event where we basically had 2 roundtable discussions, and we also had Charles come on and talk. So if you haven't heard that episode of Spawn on Me about Mafia 3, you should definitely peep that out because I think you'll get a really good understanding of what Charles was trying to do when being a writer on that game. But there are a couple of people who I really have to give some love to. One is Sean Alexander Allen, who, again, without him, our show wouldn't be anywhere near where it could have been. Sean, wherever you are, I got to give you massive amounts of love. He's coming out with his game Treachery and Beatdown City soon, but he has opened so many doors for me and for the show, and has introduced me to so many people in the industry that are now friends and are now people who we lean on for advice and people who we lean on to get us into events and a lot of cool stuff in that space. Who else? I got to give massive love to Wallstormer too. I have to say, he's a person who, when I came out to Portland, he was one of the first people I met, and he's been fantastic. Again, check out Let's Tell a Game. It's really good. He's been doing fantastic work with his writing and with the streams themselves. And also, my boy Sterling McGarvey, wherever you may be, I think he's on the flight back home to Portland today. He's definitely an industry vet, and he was in those spaces for a long time, helping us out in trying to figure out ways that we can get that stuff done. And yeah, Austin Walker, of course, like he's definitely one of the folks who gave us massive amounts of love throughout the time that we have been in the space. And it's been really cool to be able to have so much dope blackness around you and be able to share in some of those cool people in those spaces to make you feel like, the work that you're doing is valid and that you're doing cool stuff.
And don't forget Evan Narcisse.
Oh my God, Evan! Wow, Evan has blown up into someone who is doing so much cool work. Definitely check out his Black Panther book. He was chilling on the red carpet the other night, which was unbelievably dope and so fantastic to see him getting the love that he deserved. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff in that space that we are hopefully going to be able to kind of talk about in the future and also share, why people are still doing that good work. So we hope that, we'll be able to talk about that stuff, especially in the next couple of episodes, and especially during Black History Month, we'll be able to share some more stories of that stuff. So what we're going to do really quick is we're going to take a short 2-3 minute break. We're going to see if we can grab Reef and get him back into the space and get everybody else up and going. And we'll be right back after this. Shout out to everybody who was hanging out back there. Again, this is episode 206 of the Spawn on Me podcast. Yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but you know what? We rock on. That's what we do. We make sure that everything works. Everything is fine. Everything remains raw. In the words of Busta Rhymes for Black History Month, I said it, so what you going to do about it? I don't care.
That's right.
Reef lives. Yes, Reef lives.
I live.
Reef is back in full effect. Word. So we talked a little bit about, some of the cool stuff that we're hoping to be able to see during Black History Month, but we didn't ask one question that I want to ask all of you, and that is, what aspects of Black history could be handled better, good, bad, or indifferent in games? And have any of the games you've seen done it really well already? We've talked about some of that stuff behind the scenes, but I want to hear what you have to say about that with everybody here live in full effect. I'm going to go to Reef really quick. So we've seen so many different aspects of the culture kind of played out in the games that we have already played. What are some of the games you feel are actually really doing this stuff really well?
Well, I mean, okay. So let me just clarify the question. You mean that are already taking parts of Black history and doing it well?
Well, I want to even add a little bit of a layer to that. Besides just Black history, who do you feel are kind of taking Black culture and
Black culture
and doing well with that?
Got you. Well, I think that in terms of recent games, I mean, and I know that these will come up a lot, so I'll just say one of them. But I think that Assassin's Creed Origins, which is obviously not an African American game, it's an Egyptian game, but I think that it is a game that really plunges you into that culture and is just unapologetically like you're in this. I found like it was a game that got me, researching new parts of Egyptian history. I believe on the 20th, they're dropping their educational mode where you can just roam around and learn things about Egyptian history actually in the game as well. I feel like that game is just a great way to say, here's a protagonist of color in a culture that you might not be as familiar with, but we're going to develop them and make him and his wife so real that you're going to feel it, you're going to identify, you're going to empathize, and like you're going to end up actually identifying with this great character. And the reason that I love that is because I think that one argument I usually hear against more diverse characters is from people saying, well, like I might have trouble like relating to, a woman or like, or like an Asian man or a Latino woman or a transgender character or like something. Right. And I'm always like, if a character is well developed, you can identify with them. That's really what it takes. It's that level of like dialogue and design and just care. And like, I think that like Ubi did, a marvelous job with Assassin's Creed Origin, which to be honest, I would not have expected, because even though I've enjoyed previous Assassin's Creed games, I can't say I've ever really identified with any of the characters, even Ezio, who I know is kind of a fan favorite, but I can't say that I enjoyed the mechanics of the game.
Sure.
But I can't say that I really was like, I really identify with the character, or that I, kind of empathized with the character. And I definitely didn't with Desmond either.
You mean you didn't identify with Desmond? How do you not identify with Desmond? Did you not go into a technological sarcophagus and find all your ancestors to go hang out with?
I identified more with the aliens that were warning about the solar flare than I did with Desmond. So.
I have something to add to that in a minute about that thing.
Wow.
Actually. I do. I have something to add to that, actually. Go ahead.
Me or
Reef? No, Reef. I wanted to keep going because there was something I thought about as soon as you talked about the alien parts in Assassin's Creed.
No. Add good. Add on to it.
The thing that I really wanted Assassin's Creed to do, and they didn't do it because they kind of moved away from it. This is the perfect Hotep tie-in. Is that Assassin's Creed was going to go all the way Hotep because they were starting to get into the Illuminati stuff, and then they pulled back from it. And I'm kind of sad because I wanted to see them do like Hotepian stuff in Assassin's Creed because they were almost there. And then they moved away from it. I'm sad about that. They had the golden apple. They had the brown, the like golden shea butter. They had all the stuff. It was coming. And then they moved away from it. I was sad.
I mean, look. Assassin's Creed has always been about, the Templars and the Assassins. I mean, the Illuminati and stuff can be handled without it being Hotep. I mean, like the whole Deus Ex series and, and like all that stuff is like about it, it's just not New Ankh City, and once we get New Ankh City, where like we have like a Hotep Mario, jumping around the city. You know,
what does Hotep Mario throw to jump on? Does he throw out like bow ties,
Bean pies.
bow ties and bean pies? He like jumps on bean pies to
I'm just saying.
No, the
I mean,
bean pies is power up.
Oh shit!
I mean, you have to collect like the power pyramids, you know, to
Oh my
power up
God.
the Odyssey.
Does he like jump off? Does he like jump off of Farrakhan books to like get from levels to level?
Yo, let me tell you, like Nintendo needs to get on this DLC. There's an untapped Hotep market. Untapped
Oh
Hotep
my
market.
Wow.
God. Okay, I'm sorry. I
Wow.
totally derailed that. I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. Now that's when my internet should have gone out. Is right there.
Oh,
So I
shit.
could have missed that. That's what should have happened.
Sugar down.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Assassin's Creed is a really good one. I also think that in terms of the African American side, I think that Watch Dogs 2, great example of sort of again a well developed character in like a Marcus. They make him unapologetically black. They give him like these great moments in the game where like I was like, yo, like I've said that to people about being the only one in the room at work. You know what I'm saying? And like being like not respected as like a hacker because of your background. I thought that it was probably the game that I think best kind of takes in some of the profile and some of the stuff that we've seen in like the previous years. It kind of wraps it up into a more technological. And now they weren't perfect. I do think that they dangled one character out and then just kind of eliminated him for no reason. But as far as the main character, I thought that he was a great example, and that's another Ubi game, surprisingly. So yeah, I think that those two games are great examples on the open world side of like how to do it right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I remember them talking about that very specifically in some of the pieces that they put out there. One of the ones I really loved was Tanya's, where she kind of dug into the conversation that they were having in Watch Dogs. And it was really, really fantastic because it definitely spoke to what you were talking about. And actually, I have a really quick clip that we have, and I'm going to play that real fast. Hold on one second.
And I feel so exposed.
Hey, Horatio.
Yeah, welcome to my world. There's only 3 other black people that work here.
Okay,
2
so
guys,
I'm gonna have to
one
clip
woman.
this part.
We have our own mailing list. That's rough. But hey, you're fighting a good fight, changing the face of corporate life in the valley. You haven't experienced corporate life until you're the only brother in a meeting and have to represent all of blackdom. Jesus.
Okay, this is like too
If I had a
real.
nickel for every time someone complimented me for being well-spoken. So
Yeah, so I just played that well-spoken part of the of the of the Watch Dogs 2 clip. And Tanya, I know you wrote a really fantastic piece about that. And it was one of those things where it definitely hit home, because I'm sure that each one of us at some point has gotten that kind of messaging from not just the people around us that are kind of always around, but like the folks when you kind of hear the outside kind of influences come into. You want to talk a little bit about that clip and kind of what you were thinking about when you had your piece up that you put up in Polygon?
So when I was playing, I actually had to kind of stop and I had to take a minute because, full disclosure, Polygon gave me a review copy of the game and, I was playing it and I just had that moment of, this has happened to me in too many jobs. This has happened to me in too many occasions. And occasionally I still get the, oh, you're so well-spoken, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I went to college. I went to, I have an education. Speak so well is never a compliment, especially when you were saying that to a black person. It's like, I was thinking of the Chris Rock sketch where he's talking about, like, what did you expect from people, know?
Right.
And so I actually put the controller down and thought about it because I'd never had a game reflect the experiences I have had as a Black person working in corporate or even in higher ed. Because I worked in higher ed for 16 years and I still got, stuff like that. So what I was thinking about was, on the one hand, I hated the first Watch Dogs. That is not a surprise. It's not a secret. I hated it so much, I took it back literally the next day and got Diablo 3. I went back a generation rather than keep this game. So when I was playing this game, I didn't expect a lot. I didn't expect a lot of... I didn't expect... Oh, crap. Sorry. I slipped. Sorry. I will fix that in a second.
No, I'll fix it.
You're good.
I saw what you did.
Chat was moving a little too quick for me, y'all. It was a really powerful moment because I didn't expect that. And I just really was like, wow, they actually went there. Considering the ways that Ubisoft has messed up before, especially with the very first game,
Sure.
I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, but also had that moment of, ooh, boy, well, that was uncomfortable.
Right.
And then when I wrote the article, it was out there, and the internet being what it is, I got the usual, oh, you're the real racist for talking about race. And I'm like, okay, cool story, bro. But not talking about race is not going to make me a racist. I'm not sure you know what that word means.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Where sometimes when you find games that not only imitate life but commentate on it in ways that are actually pretty poignant and stuff like that. Again, we talked a little bit about Mafia 3 earlier. Some of the things that I actually really appreciate that we've seen in the space is games that have talked about our culture in ways that we haven't been able to see before. One of the ones that I think that is one that people forget often was the Black college football experience. That was a game that I think a lot of people, when you throw that out there, people are like, what the hell is that about? It was a fantastic game. Came out on the 360, and I think you should all take a look at it at some point. They have videos on YouTube and stuff as well. But the hook was that they had, within a football game, they had a mode that was like Guitar Hero, where you could basically play as Black college bands and do step shows and do all the stuff within the game itself. It was so dope. It was really, really cool to see them kind of take that aspect of Black culture and expand upon it, and then share all that stuff within the game itself. It was really cool to be able to see those things kind of push themselves out. A thing I want to ask all of you is, what part of the culture or Black life or Blackness, you can't look into the future, but looking to the past and to the present, would you like to see shown in video game form? Like, is there something that we've missed before or that hasn't been done yet that you feel like we haven't gotten a chance to see? And what would it be that you'd want to be out in the world? Reef, I'm going to go back to you really quick. What do you think about that? What's the thing that we haven't seen that represents the culture well?
Man, I think there's so many things that, we just haven't tackled yet, which I think would be awesome. First thing that comes to my mind is the Montgomery bus boycott, which was, this, like some people think it was like very quick, but it was like over a year, that people were boycotting, the Montgomery, Alabama bus system because of segregation. And again, these were mostly Black women that instead of taking the bus to work, they walked. Some walked miles to work to protest it, and the buses, they didn't stop it because they felt good about it because they lost all this money, So I thought that that would be a cool system to put into a game where you have to sort of strategically manage, like who's like not going to take which like bus, gauge that against sort of like the health and the strength of like a person to like see how far that like they can walk to like a job, and then weigh that against like the economics of the actual bus company, basically to make them lose enough money to say, hey, we give up,
Right.
I think that would be dope and instructional. And it like really follows the system of like a lot of existing games where like you have to plan out routes, and like manage like manage and like health and like all that stuff. I feel like that would be dope. And yeah, I would like love to see it. I think that there's a lot of stuff from that moment in history that can definitely be shown in a more interactive form.
Dope. Tanya, what about you? What's a game that you would like to see that showcases, Black life or Blackness in a way that we haven't seen before?
I'd want to see like, kind of like Watch Dogs 2, but more mundane. Like, we're just going about our daily lives and doing stuff we normally do, and have people not be shocked that, oh my God, there's black nerds, the way that they were when they saw a dude in Watch Dogs 2, etc. But also I like to see, something about rap and hip hop and the resurgence and the culture, because a lot of times hip hop is bastardized. A lot of time hip hop is appropriated but not appreciated.
Right.
Sharif had a great article about, hip hop teaching them to code in the Off-World book and on the site. And I'd like to delve deep into it, because I know hip hop, but I don't have a deep knowledge of it. I have a love of it. And it should be more than the cool soundtrack to a movie clip. It should be more than, the trailer music, but never in a game,
Yeah, I agree with that. What were you going to say, Tanya?
No, I was just going to address Paris. He asked if we touched on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and the 90s Boys in the Hood theme.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because I think that I feel like some of that part of Black life and Black culture has been touched on fairly significantly. I feel like there's a lot that's been done in that space already, right? Where I'm kind of more in line with Tanya's idea of the mundaneness, right? The humanness that we all inhabit every day that doesn't really get shared, where, you're either the superhero or the villain. You're either the drug dealer or the kingpin, where there isn't a lot of in between. So it's like, jumping off Tanya's answer, I would love to see a Life is Strange version that deals with black kids.
Can it be made by actual black people?
That would be fantastic. That would also be really, really cool if that was the thing that was actually in there. I think that would be fantastic, because it's one of those things I would love to see you swap out all the people who were in the Life is Strange game and set it in the Bronx, or set it in the inner city context, where those stories and those conversations are going to be vastly different than the ones that you would have in the kind of normal version of Life is Strange. Go ahead, Reef. What were you going to say?
Yeah, and I mean, they did attempt that with the We Are Chicago game that came out recently. Didn't quite, resonate with a lot of people. But I think that the idea is there. And man, Tanya, I just love your idea about expanding on like hip hop, because there's like so many games where you come from nothing, you become like a superhero. Like, what is that if not the story of, poor people of color from the South Bronx that made an art form that is now like, one of the main exports of America? Like why hasn't there been a game to like chronicle like Cool Herc and like a Busy Bee, living in the projects and like going from like block parties to like bigger events, and then going on to like people like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, on to Run DMC. I mean, like that will make a fantastic game to show how this global culture started again from, poor people of color in the South Bronx. I mean, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Crap.
That's hype, right?
Yeah.
That would be super dope. Like it makes you think again, and this is the thing that I hopefully will be able to talk about, not only in an upcoming show, but an idea that I wanted to pitch to Twitch is to talk about just how Black culture has informed and has kind of shown itself throughout all of gaming that we see today, right? It's like you can't find an emote in a game right now that doesn't involve some form of Black culture, right? It's like dances, it's like handshakes, it's like all those things where it's like any game that you've ever seen the Running Man in, that's Black culture.
So I'm saying every brand has some kind of hip hop influence, commercial or slogan. Every single one.
Right. And it's funny then when you hear people talk about, even when they talked about the event tonight, talking about, well, why aren't we represented in this space? And I'm like, look, we're here. You may not understand that we're here, but we've been in these spaces for a very long time. And people who are developers, when we talk about wanting to see more people who look like us making games and more people who look like us kind of being the people in the forefront when they talk about marketing games and things like that, those folks are using our culture all the time. They're using bits and pieces of it all the time. They just may not understand that they're using bits of Black culture all the time. So again, for the folks who are out there in the back seats, we're here. We're not going anywhere. This stuff has been here for a very long time, and you have to recognize our influence, not just only in video game culture, but in all cultures. Again, we are the culture in a lot of different ways, and we share that stuff out all the time. My version of that would be, I would love to see a game take on the story of the Black Panthers. I think that would be fantastic. I would also love to see, we've seen some games kind of dig at going back to Africa with Assassin's Creed, but I would also love to hear some stories in other parts of the world, like Medieval POC and the amazing work that they have been doing for a very long time. If you've followed their Tumblr, they have been doing great work at talking about historically how Black people have been everywhere, but you would swear that we're nowhere if you look at the way that most history is told. Talk about Black people during the Renaissance. Talk about Black people during all these other places that they've been in real ways. And also, like TB4000 said in the chat, a Black Panther game. Insomniac, somebody I saw them talking to Insomniac on Twitter the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, can you just palette swap out Spider-Man and make it a Black Panther game?" I was like, you know what? I'm not that mad at it. I would much rather kind of play that game. That game would be pretty fire if you ask me. So yeah, it's a lot of that stuff that's in the space. And I know you wanted to dig a little bit really quick before you move on to the next thing about more Mafia 3 stuff, Tanya. What do you want to get into real quick?
I just want to kind of talk about the parallels that, real life events and also kind of real life footage that they incorporate into the game, and the ways that, Lincoln's story parallels a lot of people because it's set in 1968 Louisiana. It's set in Louisiana, but in a fake city. So, we have Lincoln Clay who does not die, because if he died, it'd be a real short game. But then, they talk about, Martin Luther King, who is assassinated, and, those kind of parallels, but also the fact that we get a game that was so well done that, I've got friends who bought it, who were into it. I take great pleasure, I guess, in the fact that I got N.K. Jemisin to play this game, and then she showed it to her dad because she was talking about showing her dad the game. And, she's been in New Orleans, etc. And the fact that her dad, who's not a gamer, really got into it, and that made me happy. But for me to have a game where I get to be a Black person, I get to have my revenge story, I get to have this narrative, but they never excuse what Lincoln does. It's like, dude got shot in the head. He's mad about it, but he's got a reason, but he's also not a good dude.
Yep.
But I also learned some stuff. And granted, it's weird to say I've learned stuff from a video game, but I've also learned a lot from the Assassin's Creed games. I'm just a bad history student.
Yeah.
I'm just going to admit that up front.
Me too. I can't front. Me too.
But it's like the footage and the kind of CIA conspiracy stuff, etc. It's there's just so much there that drew me in, and I am a narrative driven person when it comes to stories, when it comes to games. I'm usually not like, oh, I just want to drive around and shoot shit. So seeing Lincoln's storyline, how it evolves, how he evolves, and that kind of decline of what he goes through, the decisions he makes, and you see the degradation of his integrity,
right,
as he kind of becomes more and more like the people he's hunting down. But also I get to learn a lot about 68 and Nam and other stuff. So it's one of those games where I know some people feel a way about it. I know they feel a way, but for me, it was a really cathartic experience. And let's be real. When I got to shoot up that Klan rally, and when I saw the trailer feeding the dude to the alligator, it was like that Fry gif. I was like, take all my money right now. And it's just really, it was a cathartic, great experience for me.
Yeah.
And same with, Watch Dogs 2. I didn't expect to like the game. I loved the game, played it nonstop. And for me, it was like, Marcus is me. This is, I'm a geeky nerd. I'm a black chick, etc. And I get to see these people that are like me. And there was no excuse given for why he's in tech and a hacker. He just is.
Right. I feel like, go ahead, Reef, you about to jump in?
Oh, no, I was just going to say one part that I also loved about Mafia, and I don't think I've seen this really done in a game that I can think of, is when you first interact with Cassandra and the Haitian gang, and there's a lot of dialogue about how they're saying, like, we are about black people and we are a gang, but like you're like reporting to these like white Italians, to like do your dirt, but like we're actually doing for ourselves. And I thought that was a really interesting conversation that, is decades and decades old, where like, do we do for ourselves or like, do we ally with like other groups that are, already doing things. Like I thought that like that was great, and I thought that like it was handled well. I wish they delved a little more into it because it kind of gets dropped as you go along in the story. But I just think that it's like one of those things that can really be mined in like a lot of like other games. Now you have to be really good about it though. But like they handle that like intercultural and that interracial issues as well.
Yeah,
I thought that was dope.
That's an interesting thing. I feel like there are so many aspects to blackness that we don't get to see. And because, we're not a monolith, you'll see that throughout the 30 days that you see everyone who is participating within this particular event. You'll see that non-monolithic way that we are all interacting, the way that we stream, conversations that we have, the way that we talk. But you would swear that from the way that video games are marketed and the ways that characters are made, that we are basically all the same avatar, just with really, really bad hair, which is real in and of itself too. I feel like do you feel like here's a part of that too. So like the conversation that we have just about black culture is one aspect of it. Do you feel that with the way the technology has grown, and I remember there being a couple articles that you've done, Tanya, that dig into the conversation about black hair, that talk about the way that not just the conversations are being had about us, but the way that we're being physically represented has changed in from generational leap to the next generational leap. Do you feel like maybe those things will actually take better shape in the next generation and this one as well. Tanya, I want to jump in on your end. You take that one.
Ooh, black hair in games. This one is partially sensitive for me, mostly because of the abuse I got for that one article.
Right.
It's been interesting because talking about black hair was a jump off point, especially in that article. And I hope it can get better, but I mean, we just saw Hellblade, which, you know, is great on the mental health stuff, not so great on the representation, because yes, I know it's Celtic and everything else in its pics, but her hair looked better than mine in most video games. A white chick. So I was just like, okay, so I can't have my hair in most games that I play. But here's this Celtic chick running around with locks that look better than mine in most games.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the new game that's coming out from the same people that made Firewatch, the hair looks good in that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and for me, the problem is always I can't have my hair as a human character in most games. Even look at Monster Hunter World. Mm-hmm. That one hairstyle with the half done braids, like you got up and ran out of the chair. But NPCs with elven ears, mind you, have nicely done braids, and I'm just like, how come the elf got a better do than me? You know, why do these old games like Dragon's Dogma, Skyrim have better braids and locks than next gen console games?
Yeah.
So, you know, I got locks, and it should not be hard. The Sims did it. I mean, The Sims, granted it was in a stuff pack, but I can have my hair. So I would hope it would get better, but it's a struggle. But it comes back to representation and what we talk about. It's we don't know who's making the games, so we don't know, or rather we don't see the people who are making the games that look like us. Mm-hmm. We don't get to see the people like us on stage at E3. We don't get to see those people in C-level positions. For the people who don't know C-level, that's like, you know, executive level, that are directors and above, that are making that final decision on what characters look like, etc. So until people get to be in those positions and get to make calls, it's gonna be harder. We're going to get things where we have Horizon Zero Dawn, where everybody's got locks. And I'm like, why do we have to have the post-apocalyptic everybody's got locks? Do you know how much work it is, actually?
I used to have locks, and this is what happened because I didn't take care of them well.
That's on you.
Wow, you got said that yourself.
Wow. See, this is why get your shea butter.
I was out there looking like the seventh heartbeat with just like two dreads just hanging out like this, and then they got pulled off, and it was not working, so I had to cut it all off.
Oh my God! You did not do that. Wow.
Nights like this, I wish my dreads would fall. Mm-hmm. Nights like just
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Tanya. I mean, like, the hair thing has always been an issue, and like, you know, from a guy's perspective, it's like you get a high top fade, like an afro, and maybe some kind of bushy hair. That's usually it. Unless you're playing a game like, say, like, you know, NBA 2K or like something like that, which actually knows that if they mess up the hair, that it'll be like a simulation of the people problem. It's really something that I feel like is just not prioritized. I saw a question in the chat that, well, it was more a statement in the chat that I basically said, you know, is it that like people don't know how to do it, or that they don't prioritize it? I think it's the prioritization. I mean, I honestly think that a lot of diversity things, especially things like that, they're not considered early enough.
Mm.
And they basically say, well, like we have a black option for the skin, and then that's it. And
Right.
then sort of at the end, it's like, oh my God, we got to do all this, all this, all this. I think that it's no longer a technical challenge. I think that if like people just thought about it early on in the design process, I think that there's no excuse anymore for that stuff to like happen if you have a character creator. It's like very frustrating that in like 2018 that we're still having these conversations.
I kind of love there was somebody I know who just started Monster Hunter World, and they were like, "Yo, I'm about to get," because he has dreads. He's like, "Yo, I'm about to get my dreads and my on my character. It's gonna be real dope. It's gonna be real hot." And
Oops.
then he tried to put dreads on his cat, and he said it looked like raggedy bananas. And I was like, "What is this nonsense?"
Man,
It's not my fault. He's the one who wanted to put dreads on a cat. Like, why would you do that in the first place? So I don't know. I kind of feel like you deserve it when you try to do that and put terrible things on side your Monster Hunter cat. I don't know. It just feels like you just get what you deserve on that end. What's the next part of gaming that you feel is going to take another step forward when it comes to not just the way that we are portrayed, but something in the form of how we are actually talking about the history of Black people? Do you feel like there is a section of gaming, not because we already talked about what we'd wanted to see in some of that stuff, but do you feel like there is a part of the history, specifically history, that has been really undone by the way that games have kind of portrayed it? Do you feel like what's the most crappy version of Blackness that you've seen in gaming so far? What's been a super low light
jeez.
that you've seen come across over there?
Well, I got one. And this actually happened during our charity stream that we had over MLK weekend. We had our 4th annual Spawn for Good like marathon. And I was playing a bunch of Super Nintendo games, including some that I never really played all the way through. So I was playing Super Punch Out, which I've never really played all the way through. And you get to this, Caribbean character. And as is of the time, the Caribbean characters are always sort of smiling and talking about feel the rhythm and all that kind of stuff. And that's sort of all they say, kind of like DJ in Street Fighter.
Oh, yeah, DJ.
That annoyed me enough, but where I had to actually like literally turn the game off on the stream was when, so like during the game, like the coaches will like tell the opposing fighters to like keep up or like do your move, and they were saying time to shuck and jive to the Caribbean boxer, and I couldn't believe it. I said, yo, like not only will I not have this, I will definitely not have this on MLK weekend, and I shut the game off.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't like to do that on stream. I mean, I was clearly upset, and I try not to do that, but man, it got me so heated because I like, even though the game, like it's from the early 90s, whatever, it was just so like, that's the kind of stuff I feel like when you're bringing a game over to something like the SNES Classic, you should remove that. I mean, that is just so ignorant and so ridiculous that I almost couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. So that to me was a low light. Yeah, a clear low light for me. That was horrible. Like I won't play that game again.
Damn.
It's horrible.
Damn. Tanya,
Wow.
what are some of your low lights? Your Blackness low lights in terms of gaming.
We ain't got enough time. Early Street Fighter, we finally get a black character, and it's like, the low budget Mike Tyson. When I know it was like licensing issues, but it was actually not something I was playing, but it was something I was watching someone stream. So Mike Laidlaw does Indie Saturday, and he finds like these obscure, weird games. and it was like the cop game, and you're getting framed as a police officer, and it was like the most racist game that I had seen in a while. Like, he even stopped playing the game, and Mike is a white Canadian dude,
Right.
but there were things like, just some language in the game that wasn't very good. It wasn't, and it was basically like, it was a little too real considering how things are right now. Like, these cops are setting people up in this little like 16-bit pixel world. And they start calling people darkies. What? And I was like, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yes, Beat Cop. That's what it is. Thanks, Wallstormer.
Oh, shoot.
And I was just like, I gotta go. I literally, and I just sent him a message. I'm like, it's not you, it's the game. I gotta go. No.
Wow, I did not know that. That thing is like in my Steam queue, and I've never
send that
downloaded
back.
It.
Send it back.
It was a free code, so I can't be mad at it.
Free is too much.
Free is too much.
Whoever sent you that game does not like you.
I mean, PR, thank you. But
Yo, I'm getting mad even thinking about the Shuck and Jive thing. I actually put the link in the chat to the photo that I tweeted out because I was just, oh my God, I just couldn't believe it.
It's kind of
couldn't
amazing.
believe it.
It's kind of amazing because I never really see Reef mad, but Reef was pissed when he saw that joint on stream. He was like,
"Look,
I don't like."
And
wow,
chat's moving fast, but there's some good comments in chat too that I just want to acknowledge.
Sure.
N.K. Jemison is saying that Daisy Fitzroy and Bioshock Infinite.
Oh yeah.
That it was such a slap in the face after 2 good games. A lot of comments about Bioshock Infinite. Wow, I'm trying to catch up, but chat's moving a little quickly. So
yeah, we can. Well,
that's all right.
Y'all talk too quick.
Yeah, you guys are fast in the chat. I'll add one of my favorite non-favorite characters in all of gaming is Coltrane from the Gears of War series.
Woo!
I hate Coltrane with a passion.
Well, I guess that answered that question.
I can't stand Coltrane. Coltrane is the worst. I don't like it because he is literally like 6 different stereotypes all in one. He is like a stereotype cornucopia of whackness. It's like so many different things that are just all wrapped up into that dude. And he does he does a really bad Ric Flair woo, which makes me even more upset because I love Ric Flair. So like, you can't do that. You can't do that. He's so bad. He's such a terrible, terrible character. And I feel like it was an interesting time in the space where that character was one in which you could get away with it because folks weren't really getting at people like on Twitter and like on social media where they were just like, if Coltrane came out today, that whole company would be done. That company would be so done at this point. They would have been shouted out. Black Twitter would have wrangled all of them up and would have put them into the jettison, into deep space. They would have gotten their faces rocked. So it's rough. Coltrane is definitely mine. And I feel like there are just so many. There's way more bad ones than there are good ones. So when you see a good one, it's like obvious.
Yeah, I actually wonder with like Coltrane, I wonder if, number one, if there was a person of color on that team, and if there was, if like they were like, I know this is annoying, but at least we got a black character in the game, or if there was just no one in the room. Like I'm really curious because like I feel like sometimes there is that struggle, especially at that time in like gaming, where like, you just want to be happy to have some diversity, even if that diversity is not well represented, like back when Street Fighter was out, I used to play with DJ because he was a black character, right, even though he's always smiling. Like he never stopped. He has a big toothy Sambo grin on, basically, Yeah. And like this used to, I'm probably the only one that like remembers this, but Balrog, who is the M Bison or the Mike Tyson parody character, in his like a profile, it was basically like he loves being stupid. It was like hates mathematics.
Oh yeah,
Which I
do
just,
remember that.
it was just a random thing. I mean, all the profiles are weird, but like I was like, yep, there's a black guy, just hates mathematics, and man, that just really got me angry when I was a kid. But at the same time, I was like, man, it's all we got, and but there's always that back and forth. I feel like now we've gotten to a point where there shouldn't be that, but I could definitely see on the coal train there maybe being one or two people in the room. Now I doubt that they were in the room and had decision making power, but they were in the room like, man, this is really bad, but I don't want them to just have all white people in the game. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things, right, where it's like you've been force fed so many bad characters for so long that when you get something good, you kind of cherish it even more and kind of want to share it out in more ways, because just like, well, shit, that's rough. Like all the ones that you shared and all the ones that Tanya shared are like just so raggedy, and it's just so hard to be able to kind of wrap your brain around that. What I'm hoping for, and I kind of want to wrap it back to Twitch really quick, is before we move on to news, is I'm hoping that the end result of some of the events that we see happening during this month is that both shows that we are currently doing get amplified and signal boosted. All the people who are doing the work here on Twitch, showcasing their work and showcasing their talent and their content, will get more love in the future, because I think, as much as Twitch has done a pretty cool job with this initial kind of push, what I'm hoping to see is that more people who look like us get more spotlights behind the scenes. I want more people to, I don't want this particular event to just be the only time you see us on Twitch. Because you see it as soon as you put on a new game that's being promoted by a company. There are very few streamers of color that are given keys for games. There are very few streamers of color who are given front page the way that we have been, and the rest of the folks who are going to be in this event are going to be given. And I feel like our work is just as good as most of the big streamers, or even better, because we have a different perspective, and because we are talking about things that have more relevancy than just playing games. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show. But for now, I want to dig into a little bit of news for the second half of this episode. Reef, I know that you put together the docket. I want you to jump into the first article for the show.
Sure. So get out your cardboard, get out your Amazon boxes that I'm sure are stacked up in your house, and let's talk a little bit about the Nintendo Lab O. So this is a sort of DIY kit that Nintendo announced a couple of weeks ago at this point, as like basically an add-on for the Switch, where like they'll like ship you some like patterned cardboard, and you build it into different like devices that interact with like the Switch in like various ways. There's like RC car, piano, fishing rod, all that kind of stuff. And the prices were a little hefty. They were like $70 for like one kit, which like had about 5 different things you can make, and like $80 for like another kit where like you could basically make like sort of a huge robot backpack thing. And there was a lot of like discussion around, well, like these prices are like a hefty. They might be a little justified if you had like the customization to be able to either build your own, or like I use this with like something other than like a cardboard. I had no doubts that even if Nintendo didn't do anything, that people would find other ways to use this, which people always do with like DIY stuff, which is why I'm on board. But Nintendo did announce today, actually, that they are going to like actually offer some like official software that will allow you to like reprogram things as well. So that customization element does look like that it's actually going to like be part of it. And as I read the article, it's not something that's actually going to be like an extra cost. It's like actually going to be something that's like embedded into the software that like you get for that $70 or that $80 package. So I'm super excited, as like a tinkerer, as like an engineer, as somebody that like teaches. I'm always looking for like different things to like to like help my like students understand like the properties of math and physics. So I'm super excited, and like I think that like this goes a long way in like justifying that like price tag a bit more. But I also realize that, as like Nintendo said, like this is aimed at kids and people that are young at heart, or like a tinkerers, right? So I think that this is really a niche product that they're not expecting to appeal to everyone, and I'm hoping that their business model for their return on it like reflects that. But I'm super excited, and I'm glad that that like they're officially showing that like customization. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that by having that customization, that it's something that like makes it more worth it to you guys? And I'll start with Kahlief.
Who the hell is Kahlief? I don't know.
Kahlief.
Kahlief. Ain't no Kahlief live here.
I like calling your name Kahlief.
Kahlief.
Good.
That's racist. Anyway.
Oh my God.
I'm actually more excited for the collabo now that it's going to be something that you can definitely kind of change and reinvent while you have it. Because that was the thing I was worried about, is like you're going to get this one particular thing. You're going to have it for a small amount of time. Your cat's going to get cat hair all in it. And then all your other animals are going to throw it around and mess it up and beat it up. But then what are you going to do with that extra piece of hardware that, I was never a fan of like Rock Band and stuff, because once you got done with it, you had all these huge pieces of plastic in your house and you couldn't really do anything else with. But hearing that Nintendo was being really forward thinking and trying to lengthen the life of the product itself by giving you multiple ways that you can interact with it, that's really smart. Like, I feel like it's going to be it's going to be saving you more money and giving you more time to engage with the product, and then have you think about it in other ways and move outside the box with it, which is going to be really funky to see just how far they'll let you take that. So yeah, I'm down for that. I think it's cool. I think it's going to be pretty dope. Tanya, what do you think about that?
I think it's cool, but I know it's not for me because I've got a cat and a small apartment. So I can see my cat deciding that the Nintendo Labo is an elaborate cat toy. So, I mean, it's cool if I had a niece or something or a nephew, I'd probably get it for them. But it's not my jam. I think it's really cool because I'll teach kids to build.
Yeah.
And it'll teach kids to like kind of figure out how things go together. So, like I said, if I had a niece or a nephew, I'd totally be into it and get it for them. But for me, I'm like, that's cool. I'll watch videos. I will watch people struggle on Twitch to assemble these things.
That's going to be great.
I can't wait to stream myself building this.
So good. I'm
absolutely going to be streaming myself building this.
They should just make a whole new category just called like IKEA.
Oh my God.
Whole bunch of people just screwing it
build
up.
Build a lap bed. Cardboard bed. Yeah, and I actually forgot to mention that they showed a trailer, which is not publicized yet, but some of the custom examples that they had was like a working bank, which I'm assuming they mean just something you could put, money in, not like an actual branch of, Bank of America or something. A vending machine, a 2-player tennis game, and a functional guitar with frets, which is pretty nuts.
That's pretty dope.
Saying that it's all based on cardboard, but I mean, there's definitely some like talk in the chat that like this may kind of dissuade like Nintendo from focusing on sort of their main games on the Switch. I really don't think so. I think this is really a side thing. This is them just being super creative and just like, like Nintendo try stuff and like some of it hits and like some of it misses. And I think that this is going to be like a hit with the right kind of like people, but make no mistake, like they're trying to make games for the Switch and keep on breaking records as they have been. I mean, they've like already outsold the Wii U's in 10 months, which is pretty nuts.
That's madness.
So yeah, I don't think you really have to worry about, like, I doubt that they're taking like the people that are working on their top franchises and put them on like the Labo. I don't think that that's going to happen, but I got mine. I got them pre-ordered. I'm going to be streaming my attempts both at like following, like the instructions and just trying like my own stuff. I mean, this really brings me back to me being like a Lego kid, where I would follow the instructions once and then I would just build my own stuff, or I'd combine different sets, or I had my big bucket. I didn't buy like that many like sets. I just had a big bucket of like Legos. I don't know if they sell those buckets anymore.
Do they still sell those things? That would be interesting, right?
I mean, they probably do at the Lego store, but I feel like when I see like Legos at like Target or like those, it's like always like a set, But yeah, I'm super hyped, super hyped.
Okay.
And I'm again, like, I think that it's something that, I just hope that when they planned out their revenue and like all that stuff, that they know that this is not going to sell to the entire install base. Like, this is a niche product, and I think it's dope.
Yeah, I think I'm again curious to see what the the tail is going to be on this thing, because once they do the first initial batch, I'm curious to see like what like version 2 is going to be, or like season 2 of the collabo is going to look like. Which I'm just going to keep calling the collabo, because the collabo sounds better than just the labo. I don't care. I'm doing it, and I don't care what Nintendo says.
Don't be surprised if like one day like we log on to like do the show and there's like a cardboard version of me with like a functioning mouth that I'm controlling with the labo.
Can we get a cardboard Cicero?
Cardboard versions of everyone.
You know what they'll do? You know what they'll do? They'll have I keep saying the collabo now. I can't stop saying collabo. They'll have the labo versions that they first come out, and then generation 2 will just be all corrugated cardboard. Just cutting up people's hands, just beating their hands up with corrugated cardboard. It's gonna be dope. What's the second story for tonight, Reef?
Sure. So the second story is about how I'm building a cardboard version of myself to actually and tutor as well. So the second story is a bit about one of the founders of video game industry, really, Nolan Bushnell, the head of not the head of Atari, but I believe he's one of the co-founders of Atari. And he was set to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at GDC, at the Game Developers Conference this year, and it ended up getting rescinded because it seems like this was a bit of an open secret, but he had some really, really bad harassment issues with women. And this wasn't like kind of things, kind of like private things. This was very public. At his like a company, like sort of had like that frat house kind of like a relationship. The quote from the article says, that in 2012, Bushnell wistfully recalls the wild environment of the 70s Atari era. It was the post-flower revolution, women's liberation, no AIDS yet, and lots of company romances, so like he would wear all kinds of inappropriate shirts and make comments about women's looks, and like I'm sure much, much worse as well. Mm-hmm. And because this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, based on sort of his work, I thought that that GDC realized that this is a guy that's been celebrated for over 40 years, right? And I like that people are finally comfortable with sharing the like information about the harassment. As we've seen with like other people in different industries as well. And I'm glad that that they rescinded this, because like we should not be celebrating people that perpetuate this kind of harassment in like any workplace. And there was also a similar story about a player in the fighting game community that got banned from tournaments because he's like also a harasser, Andre Howard. So I'm glad to see people that participate in this get their just desserts, and I hope that this is like a signal to people that there are repercussions, for being an asshole, basically. I'll start with Tanya this time. What do you think about the Nolan Bushnell kind of situation? Do you think that that like it was right of like a GDC to like rescind this, or like do you think that that like he should be kind of celebrated for like just his gaming work, I should say?
Nah, fuck that. Take that award away. Because so the context is for me why I feel so strongly is that I used to be on the ConCom of WizCon, and there was an incident before I was on the ConCom when I was just an attendee where someone made some really terrible remarks and they were disinvited, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this person, they've contributed so much to science fiction and fantasy," and I was like, "Nah, you,
right,
you." Just the way that we excuse this, and I know we're front page and we should keep our language kind of clean, but I'm just gonna be like, fuck them. You cannot separate that creator from the terrible things they did. So if you want to go, but he co-created Atari and this gave people all the nostalgia, et cetera, I don't care. I haven't touched Atari in 25 years. So why should that be excused? That's like when someone is found to be a harasser or an abuser, and there's always somebody that goes, well, they never did it to me, and they're a nice person, and they're my friend. I don't care if that's your friend. Fuck your friend.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they did it quickly. And I'm glad they did it. And as for the fighting tournament, dude, it should have happened sooner, because a lot of people don't feel like they're safe going to fighting game tournaments as a female player or a non-binary person or someone that's queer. I've gone to a lot of events where I'm the only woman there that's there to compete or there to just be there and game. So why should these people get a pass because they didn't bother everybody? I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they did it decisively. And I don't care what he said. I don't care about all the quotes in the article. They're like, oh yeah, he has a place in history. Let him stay in history and be forgotten. I don't care. Let somebody be mad.
Yeah.
You want to be mad? I'm easy to find online.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely. Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, I applaud. It's interesting too. So like, I know Tanya and I will probably more than likely be at GDC this year. And the interesting thing is, like, behind the scenes, I get often invites to do press stuff at GDC, and I was trying to get tickets to the GDC Awards ceremony, and when I heard about, because I wanted to, I didn't know this information about Nolan Bushnell. I was like, wow, it's a really cool thing that he's going to be awarded this award. And I wanted to interview him to see more about his life and what he's contributed to the game space. After hearing this, I would never want that interview. Like, it doesn't mean that much to me to hear that people who have been in this space have treated people so badly and have gotten away with it for a very long time. Like, when you have that stuff that's just attached to you, you are absolutely not a person that I want to talk to or to engage with, because it's such a terrible thing. Like this shirt, like I'm not gonna say the whole thing, but he had a shirt they used to rock around his office that was just like, I like to F.
Yeah.
Like, in what world is that reasonable? Like, I get that they had, like, misogyny has been very, very interesting in the way that it's progressed and gotten a little bit more, in some ways, uh, less blatant in some ways, but even more so in some other ways. But hearing that conversation of being like, I'm in the workplace and I'm going to rock a shirt when I know I've employed women that says I like to F, I can't rock with you. That stuff is gross. That stuff is terrible. You're a terrible human being. Like, would never have that in my brain to be able to do that in any circumstance.
Well, and I also can't see your wife letting you get 2 feet out the door.
Oh, she's a farm girl. She'll stab me with a pitchfork. I'll just randomly get hit, just duffed out, just out of nowhere. It's like, she just be called out the scene. Just a white hand just coming from screen left, just punched me in the eye. But it's one of those things, right, where it's like, I want to give kudos to GDC for seeing that this was a thing that happened. And it's a little bit weird that they didn't know this, though. I feel like that's a little bit weird.
I think they knew it.
I think you kind of knew it, but you were gonna let it slide until people got up and said some stuff. Which I find a little bit disheartening as well. Like,
I mean, that's been a consistent thing in every industry that this happened. Is there's these open secrets, but obviously people are scared to come forward because of persecution and because they won't be believed, and we're finally at a point where that's starting to turn a bit. I don't believe it's completely turned yet, but we're at that point where like some of these people are getting their just desserts. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, good. Like, I don't care if Bushnell is never honored again. He's been honored. As I said, he's been honored for 40 years. Like, take that and bounce and be a recluse as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like, you should pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
There are repercussions.
Kapura in the chat asked, what do we think about Rami Ismail, who's also going to get the Ambassador Award, and Tim Schafer. Why couldn't I remember Tim Schafer's name? Jesus Christmas. Is also going to be getting an award, Lifetime Achievement Award, I believe. I'm really happy about that. I mean, I've been a fan of Rami's work for a very long time. I remember meeting him. Interesting story about Rami really quick. Rami was one of the first interviews that I've ever done, or people that I've met in the gaming space that was really super helpful in trying to get me some access, which a lot of people don't know. So I met Rami some years back at Indiecade East. And at the time, I had known of his work and knew that he did some cool stuff. So I was like a little bit nervous when I walked over to him. I had two friends that I like hoodwinked into going with me to try to be my camera people for the show, and rolled over to him. And he literally showed me what Steam looks like from the back end. So I now know. He was like, do you want to see? He was like updating Nuclear Throne in the early stages of that game. And I was like, hey, Rami, how you doing? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. He was like, hey, do you want to see what Steam looks like from the back end? And I was like, what? And it's terrible looking. I was like, it looks like garbage. It's so cool. And then he actually asked me, he was like, hey, I was trying to meet someone else who was from Sony at the time. And he was actually nice enough to offer an invitation to meet that person. And I punked out and got scared and ran away. So Rami, I have a lot of love for him. I think he's a really cool cat. And Tim Schafer has just been in the game for so long. I think he's fantastic. He's done a lot of really fun stuff. And hopefully we'll be able to get both of them on the show fairly soon. I know Rami, we could definitely get on, and Tim has said that he wanted to do the show at some point too. So we'll definitely be able to get them on the show and talk to them directly. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm happy that they made that switch and that they changed that stuff over, because it would have been a really bad note for that award show to kind of jump off on, especially having like Robin Hunnicky as a host too, who we've had on the show. So like, having to give someone an award who has been really gross is kind of nasty too. So
Think about how often people have had to do that throughout history.
Think of the
Like,
Oscars. Think of the Grammys.
Of
Right?
everything, really.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. I have no qualms about banning these dudes from doing that. No qualms.
Yeah.
Get them out of here.
Get him out of here. Last thing before we get up out of here for episode 206 of the Spawn on Me podcast. Again, thank you to everyone who has been hanging out, giving us front page love. I think we topped out almost, not even topped out, but we were in some really high number counts in terms of people watching tonight. Before we get up out of here, I know we've all been playing some stuff on our consoles and PCs and Switches and things, and I kind of want to go around the table and just dig into some of the stuff that you've all been playing, and figure out what some of those things may be. Let's see, Tanya, what were you playing over the past couple of days and stuff? What have you been streaming too? Because you've been streaming a lot of cool stuff too.
Oh God, what haven't I been streaming? Skyrim, because it's my comfort game beside Dragon Age, and Twitter today annoyed me so much, I decided, you know what? I need to go kill some racists. So, Lincoln Clay is my boo. I was like, I just got to go back to New Bordeaux. And I played through that a little bit. And it's interesting because I'm replaying on the PC. And it's really weird because I got really used to the PS4. I got really used to those controls. And now sitting here trying to play on an Xbox controller on PC is so weird. It's so weird. But I played Cuphead. Thank you, Kahlief, for buying it. And I'm sure you saw how much I cussed during that stream. I lasted an hour and a half. And I was like, okay, I got to stop because I'm going to throw a controller. There's no way I could do that on keyboard and mouse.
But you gave it a shot. Like, you gave it a shot.
I mean, and I'll still play it. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to play it. But it was just like, there's only so much failure I can do.
Right.
And also, wow, I just totally went on my head. Monster Hunter. I've actually been playing Monster Hunter because thanks to a couple stream supporters, I have Monster Hunter World now. And, you know, I'd seen people get hype about it. A couple of our friends are like, you know, hardcore old school Monster Hunter players. And I did play it on the Wii U. And it's fun, but it's a little grindy.
Yeah.
So part of it is like, this is fun, but if I don't have people I know to play with, I'm not sure I'll really, really like it. So we'll see. And what else have I been playing? So there's Skyrim, there's Cuphead, there's Monster Hunter World, there's Mafia 3. I feel like there's something else, but there's also like every game under the sun that's been coming out. You know, it's like you look up and it's like 5 games have come out in the last 2 weeks. You're like, how much money do they think we have?
I know. It's been nuts.
But I really, really want Dissidia because I didn't realize it was a Final Fantasy fighting game.
Oh, right.
And I was just like, wait, I can be Sephiroth in a fighting game? Why did no one tell me about this? Because I Am Brandon was streaming it, and I saw some folks streaming it. I think DJ Tech Live was doing that too. And I was just like, a fighting game and Final Fantasy, my 2 favorite things. You've put it together in one game. So I want that. I'm not playing it yet. And I went back to Street Fighter V because the arcade update, but then I was like, you want me to pay you $40 more for the arcade update? No, thank you.
Oh, really?
I see now. I don't know.
If you had,
I thought it was included too, but every time I go to the PlayStation store, it's like pay more money.
Yep.
Oh wow! I did not realize that.
Capcom with Street Fighter, they are trying to get in your pockets real hard. They don't care. They totally don't care.
That is not cool. That is not cool at all.
Anything else, Tanya, that you've been digging through?
I've been digging through. Wow, because it just really feels like the games are never ending. I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild off stream because I got backseated so much. I am never going to play that shit on stream again.
I want to hear about this. How are you liking Zelda?
I love it. I mean, I love it. It's a chill game. You know, I take a lot of flights. It's something I can play. I can get, unless the flight is really long, like veering on 5 hours, I can actually get a lot of playtime in and make progress. But I love it. It's bright. It's colorful. It reminds me of the Zelda that I grew up playing. But I ain't never streaming that again.
That is hilarious.
I mean, I mean,
The
anyone.
fanboys get out of control when they see that stuff.
Look. I can't. And I kind of want to get the Dragon Ball because someone mentioned it, and I know Oni's been streaming it. But I don't know. It's like I wasn't really digging the last Dragon Ball game that I played, but I still kind of want it because I'm a big nerd.
Right.
And I'm kind of burned out on Sea of Thieves already.
Wow.
Just watching people stream it, but it also isn't what I. Well, it isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more of an RPG kind of game, not a.
Oh yeah, no.
Not a play with your buddies kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Reef, did you play any Sea of Thieves?
I did. So I've been in the alphas for a while. So I've been on a couple of times. I played a little bit of the closed beta. I mean, it's pretty much was very similar to the alphas. I love the game because you're absolutely right, Tanya. It's not really like a level up and that kind of game. It's like more of a let's see what kind of dumb pirate shit we can get into. like that's kind of what it is. But I like that. It's like kind of a silly, kind of half pay attention game. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of like games like No Man's Sky or like a game where, kind of a wind down game. And I like that for it. Unfortunately, I think that's going to harm it. If Microsoft really wants us to be like this, big IP that they can put against like Horizon and Last of Us on the Sony side and like say, this is our huge, big selling thing. I don't think it's going to be like that. But I can see it as a game getting a really dedicated like community of just pirate people that are role playing and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, I still love the fact that you can shoot yourself out of a cannon. I think it's just never get old to me. I love the fact that not only can you pick up a treasure map, but you can like show it to someone on the screen so that they can read it. I think that like those little touches are great. The water is beautiful. Yeah. Even though like obviously it's not like a photorealistic game, but the water just looks great. But yeah, it is absolutely like actually Nani has a hilarious thing where Sea of Thieves is like PUBG, but without everyone killing one another, which I have to disagree with because I've been killed plenty of times by other people in Sea of Thieves.
You gotta thrust or bust, Reef. That's what you gotta do.
Oh man, my thrust or bust is weak in that game, man. But yeah, I think it's fun for what it is. But I do think, as like Atanya said, I do think that some people are going to go in with the wrong assumptions about what it is because they're going to see like this $60 first party game, and I think we've kind of been almost trained to expect like a certain kind of experience with those games. And this definitely is not that. But it's super fun. I had a great time with it. Definitely something I'm gonna pick up on PC, especially because of the crossplay with Xbox. I think a lot of people are going to like pick it up as well that have Game Pass, since it'll be available like a day and date if like you have like the $10 a month like Microsoft Game Pass service. So I think there's always going to be a community. I don't think it's going to be like the current state of a game like, say, Lawbreakers, which I love, but you queue forever because there's just not enough people kind of like actually playing it. I think this game is going to be a success in its own small way. But yeah, it's so much fun and it's just so funny. As I said to Ka previously, it's the best game to get drunk in game in. They have the best you're drunk physics I've ever seen in a game. I don't know how quite they got that done. I don't know if they had live experimentation, if like they like mocapped a person and just made them really drunk and kind of did that. I don't know, but yeah, it's just super dope. And yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Big fan of it.
If you have not listened to our show, check out episode 179 of Spawn on Me, where we talked to two of the devs on Sea of Thieves. You definitely dig that episode. I want to. There's one thing that I'm a little bit worried about with Sea of Thieves, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. I know they put out, it's a beta kind of alpha that they put out, but I feel like they did themselves a little bit of a disservice with what they put out for people to kind of consume, because it didn't really route you in any way that gave you a lot of hope, at least me, about how the actual game is going to play, besides kind of just roaming the seas and trying to get chests that you can bring back for more money. It felt really empty in terms of content. And I know they're not trying to show their whole hand really early, but I feel like if you're going to pull people in to get them excited about the game, you have to put something on the hook, and just pretty water and vomiting is not going to be the thing that's going to put people to go want to spend money on their game. So I left that alpha a little bit worried for that game. And
It's an alpha.
But I feel like if you're going to do that stuff, you have to share a little bit of both, right? You have to share a little bit of the multiplayer stuff, which is what most of that game was. But you also have to hook the people who are the folks like Tanya, who are not going to necessarily want to play with other people, who may want to do that seafaring by themselves and have more mission-based stuff. Like, they could have gave a mission or two just to show what that stuff would have been. I agree. Like. And I think that showcased the game a little bit better.
I agree somewhat, but I do think that you run that risk of like, people playing through too much of it early.
Yeah.
And then saying, I'm not going to buy it. And I could definitely, like, with the amount of time that people were streaming that game, I could have seen people blowing through. Like, if they made a bigger chunk of it available, I think people would have blown through it. And then either like they would have said that was fun, I got my fill, or they would have said, I want to play through the same stuff again, or something like that. So I think it's something. But Tanya, I know you had another game that you wanted to touch on a bit.
Yeah, sorry I didn't think about it when I was talking earlier. Fun. But Dauntless by Phoenix Labs. I know some people have played it. I'm not sure who in the chat might have played it, but it's kind of Monster Hunter-esque. But to me, it's a lot more chill. Like, I can kind of go by myself. I can also play with other people. I think it's still in development, but the character customization is already great. I can be brown. I can be different shades of brown. And they do have what they call locks in the game, and they don't look like locks. But the good thing is the devs were really responsive to feedback. Dauntless is what I'm talking about. Because I saw someone streaming it, again, I think it was Mike Laidlaw. And then I discovered way after the fact that I've actually got a code for Dauntless. I got it PAX West. So I've been playing it. And I sent the devs some feedback, and they actually were like, cool, thanks for this feedback, because everything in the game is like really super shiny at this point. So there's some textures that need to probably be updated, at least for me. I'm like, I know you said it's like undercut locks, but no. So the good news is they're receptive to feedback. But Dauntless, it's fun, and I don't feel as left alone if I'm by myself to play. And now having played Monster Hunter, I think I can actually go back and get a better feel for Dauntless, because I was a little lost. Kind of like, what do I do? There's just this giant colorful world. So I've been having fun with that. So if you can get in the beta or get a key, I suggest playing it, especially if you're having a little FOMO over Monster Hunter. I think this is a good alternate, and there's a lot of things that are definitely inspired by Monster Hunter in it, but I'm really enjoying it, and it's something I can solo or play with a team of 4.
Word. Oh, really quick before we leave you, Tanya. What now that you've had a chance to play through Cuphead or play some more Cuphead? I know that you had some issues with it prior. And kind of the way that they were talking about it and kind of the conversation around it.
Right.
Was there anything in the game that you felt surprised you when you had a chance to actually play through it? Or play some of it?
That's a little hard because I didn't get too far in it. Like I said, I played for about an hour and a half, but some of it seemed punishing even on simple, because I did drop the difficulty down after I just kept getting frustrated.
Right.
But there's also just the imagery that Yusuf Cole talked about, and the ways in which, there's clearly an influence of the old Max Fleischer cartoons and the racist stuff that we some of us grew up seeing, but not really touching on it. If you saw Steamboat Willie, you saw these older cartoons, and the game is a challenge, and I still want to throw my controller, but like I said before, a couple episodes ago, it's not that the game is hard. The game is hard, but for me, it's a challenge to try to get through it. I got frustrated. I can admit the game beat me this time, but it was never about the game being too hard. It was about the kind of get good culture worship around the game, and that's always going to be what I have to say about the game, just like Dark Souls. I've got Dark Souls 3 and I've got Dark Souls 1. I don't hate hard games. I hate the... Wow, that was going to be such a bad phrase to use on the front page.
You were going to say something really bad.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, yes, I was, because I know, I know what I was going to say. So I'm going to instead, so, I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to pull it back.
Oh man, that was so good. That was so good.
Because you know where I was going to go.
It was like your dread started tingling. It was dope.
Yeah, that was dope.
That was for real. It was
my
danger
God.
zone.
It was real dope.
I was like, if we weren't on the front page right now, we weren't on the front page.
Oh, man.
Come
back to the next show, next episode.
I'll tell you. But it's this adulation over the hardness of a game and the difficulty, and you're not a real gamer if you don't, play Dark Souls and punish yourself and spend 4 hours on one boss. And this idea that if you don't fall into that category, if that's not what you find enjoyable as a gamer, then you are not actually a gamer. The people that will scoff at folks playing narrative games or playing something on easy, etc. So there are always these people that will try to test your gamer cred and say, well, oh, you never played Dark Souls. You never played. And it's like, dude, I grew up playing Frogger and Contra. We can't play. You can play the cred game if you want.
Right.
But it is what it is. So again, it's not about that the game is hard. It's not about that the game is difficult. It's the worship of get good culture and the worship of be the best you can. Punish yourself in this game. And if you don't do so, then you're not a real gamer. And that's where my issue has always been with it. Right. Because I saw the adulation of Cuphead reaching Dark Souls levels.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense. Good culture is whack. We don't support that here. Good culture is garbage. Don't dig into that stuff. Especially if you are like a hunter in Destiny and you know that your jumps are
wow.
way better than Warlock jumps that could ever be. Shout out to everyone in the chat who likes Warlocks. I should ban you all just for liking Warlocks in the chat. Anyway.
Hey, I've been a Warlock since Destiny 1, man.
Oh, I thought I knew you. I don't love you anymore.
Been locking it up.
I thought I loved you. I thought I loved you, Reef. I've been playing a couple things. I started SteamWorld Dig 2 on the Switch from the recommendation from Danny O'Dwyer. Shout out to Danny O'Dwyer over at NoClip. That game is pretty funky. I like it a lot. It's feeding my Spelunky love in a lot of ways, and I feel like it's doing some stuff that's really cool besides the way that you would play Spelunky, which I'm digging. I didn't think that I was gonna like it. I thought it was gonna be something that was like, it's kind of throwaway game, but I'm digging it a lot. That's something that's really fun. Definitely played some Sea of Thieves, and we talked about that already. Again, I'm hoping that thing expands into something more, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring those folks back onto the show and talk about it once it goes live and everybody else can actually do it. The thing that Reef brought up, actually, that I did want to touch on is I hope that they figure out a way with Sea of Thieves to give you a space where you're not constantly under threat. I think that part is kind of annoying. It gave me a lot of feelings of when I first started to play GTA Online for the first couple weeks, and literally anytime I turned a corner, I got shot. I was like, is this NYPD around me right now? What is going on? What is happening? Anywhere you turn, people roll up on you and try to shoot you. Like, what is happening in this part of the game? I did not appreciate that, and it feels like there are parts of that right now in Sea of Thieves, which I hope they figure out a way to kind of tweak that and make that a little bit better. But the weird thing, a game that I've been playing that has been taking up a lot of my time for the past week. So first of all, my PS4 died in the past couple weeks, and I finally got it back yesterday. Shout out to not good. Shout out to FedEx. I got beef with y'all, like for real. Don't ever try to sponsor our show. I will turn your money down, bro. Don't do it, because I don't want your FedEx money. Because you're a bunch of liars. Anyway.
Whoa.
Liars.
Wow.
So that's sponsorship.
I don't. You know what? I'll take that.
See?
I'll take that one to the chest. I'll put my black fist up and be like, no FedEx, no justice. I think.
Now watch the next time you need a delivery. See what happens.
Well, last time they tried to say they gave me a delivery and they didn't even come, and didn't leave no messages, and they made me stay home from work anyway. And I've been playing a lot of UFC 3 that is just coming out this week. I have been a fan of the game from the previous two iterations of it. Got a chance to play a little bit of it early because of EA Access, which again, if you are on Xbox and you have not purchased EA Access, I think it's a really good bargain. And you get to play stuff really early. You get a chance to kind of see if you want to actually dig into the game that you can get a free trial for. And UFC 3 is really good. I'm actually super surprised at some of the small things they've done to make that game better. Better locomotion. It feels like when you get hit, you're really getting hit. Like the visceral parts of that game that they got done really well in the previous two games. I feel like they've ramped that up in a way that doesn't seem gross. Because in the first game, it was like, oh, you look really bloody. Like you just got beat the hell up. And it was kind of in this kind of grotesque way. Now it feels a little bit more realistic, which is great. And also, one of the really cool things they added that they did from the previous game was this new kind of, what do you call it? Like you build your stable kind of mode. I forget the actual name of it specifically. But it's funky because what you do is you get your characters, you place them into your slots, and then you have all these different cards that are assigned to you that you get from packs that you get. It's kind of like Madden MUT mode. And you join there and you basically build out your characters, your fighters with these moves, and it gives them so many different options that you can use to fight characters up the ranks. And I'm really digging it. I'm really excited to play the full version of the game when it comes out on Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. And then I get to bring my character Leafy Green back on into the world, who is my created character. Most of my created characters are called Leafy Green. And I've started an internet beef with someone on another Twitch channel who plays a lot of UFC fighting games, Mills Gaming. Shout out to Mills. So our virtual characters are going to have virtual beef on Twitter and in virtual spaces and in the real world, because that's what you're supposed to do when you have cool video games and you can do that stuff with. So it's like, I have a Twitter handle for him, and I'm going to throw internet shade at Mills.
Oh my God.
Through my character's Twitter handle, which is the same Twitter handle that you can make for him in the game. It's super dope. It's like Inception, but UFC fighting and Twitter beef all masked into one thing at the same time. I have a lot of time on my hands.
I know. I'm like, I hope you have a lot of time on your hands, Tab.
Y'all were not supposed to agree with that. Now we're shutting down the show.
I'm agreeing 100%.
That was terrible.
Now that's it. That's a wrap. We're done. You killed it.
That's terrible. That was terrible. Anyway, UFCception, exactly, Wallstormer. Yes, thank you very much. So, again, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We had a fantastic episode, a fantastic show. Let me just look at something real quick, because I when you're on front page, it is really cool to see just how many people have kind of come through and just hung out. I think at peak we had almost like 900 people in here hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah,
Almost
over 900. Yeah.
over 900, over 9,000. Almost 112 new followers today, and then like 8 subs. Fantastic! I'm so happy
Sweet.
about that. And again, huge shout out to the folks over at Twitch for hooking us up with some front page love. Absolutely check out all their tweets, because you'll be able to see whoever else is going to be engaging in a part of this Black History Month push. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week and every week. And Reef, before we get up out of here, let people know where they can find our show and find out all the other stuff that we're doing.
Sure, guys. Spawnon.me. Go to that website, get the latest episode, the archive of the episodes, our About Us pages, all that information, contacts, and all that stuff. If you want to tweet at us, go to @SpawnOnMe. If you want to is it Facebook us? Can you even
If
say
you want
that?
to FaceTime us? I'm not giving out my number. You're
I feel like I'm 90 years old. If you want to Facebook us, you can go to Spawn on Me as well. And also, if you are listening to the audio podcast, join us every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, or 9:30 Central, on twitch.tv/Spawn on Me as well, to catch our live video version of the show. And if you want to go above and beyond to support us as well, make sure to go to patreon.com/Spawn on Me to help us reach our goals, to make the show even better, to represent for all the people out there.
Word, and more word. And again, I'm going to take a parting shot or parting gift to give to everybody, and shout out homeboy DeRay out in the world, and think about this whenever you visit our page and when you visit our stuff, and everybody else who's going to be engaged with this stuff, that we love our blackness and yours, and definitely rep yourself as hard as possible out in the world. So much love to you all. We're going to say peace. Thank you all for coming and hanging out tonight. Much love.
Peace.
Peace.